Hello there, this is the Shadow Ranger, and this is gonna be a response to the Lex Man. Um, I'm gonna have to make this short because I gotta be at work in an hour, so I gotta get up, get showered, and dressed and ready to go. But I want to go ahead and do this before I go, so I won't be thinking about it. Um, Basically, this is a response to the Lex Man, and he's responding to comments that I've made about some of the younger guys in WWE, most notably Daniel Bryan, and he doesn't get why I call him boring, and he thinks that it's just because I hate WWE, and he says like if Daniel Bryan were in TNA, I would be praising him. Let me be clear. If TNA booked Daniel Bryan the way WWE booked him, I'd be calling him boring as well. Now I've talked more about the boring young guys in the WWE of the youth movement because it gets talked about more. People always talk about how this youth movement and trying to praising WWE about this youth movement. My thing is, why are you praising them about this youth movement when the youth movement is these youth movement guys are so boring? And I've always kept it to WWE because that's the company that gets talked about when they're talking about a youth movement. But I need to be clear on something. I think TNA has the same problem, but to a much, much lesser extent. There are some younger guys in TNA that are very good wrestlers, but also boring. And I don't blame WWE or TNA for this. I don't blame I blame WWE and TNA for this. I don't blame the wrestler. It's up to the company and their bookers to do something with these guys to make them interesting. But for the record, there are guys in TNA that I think are good wrestlers, but are boring personalities. Um, I'll name a couple of them right now. I'm on the TNA roster page. Right off the bat, Amazing Red, who I think is dull as dirt. He's a good wrestler. He's fun to watch, but he is boring. And he was interesting at one point when TNA put Don West with him to be his promo guy for him, and they had something really good going. But for whatever reason, TNA decided to kill it. I don't know why, because Red by himself is fucking dull as dirt. Going down the list, Anarchy I'll give a pass to for now because he's only been there for like a month and a half, so he really hasn't got much chance to really showcase anything. Um, Gunner and Murphy are two guys. I keep saying if TNA is gonna put the TV title on Gunner, then they need to let him show a personality. I think the guy has a good look, and I think he's good in the ring from what I've seen of him, and I think that he can be a good personality. It's something in him I see that can be good, but TNA hasn't given him much chance to show a personality. They haven't let him cut any promos. They haven't let him have many good matches. He's supposed to be having a match with Christopher Daniels, and maybe this is going to lead to a feud. I hope so he can show some personality. But right now, he's fucking boring as well too. So is Murphy. Guys like Rob Terry, they show no personality. They don't put in any type of interesting promo, and they're boring to watch. But like I said, it's much less so in TNA. Most of the guys on TNA roster have some type of unique and interesting personality that separates them from the other guys on the roster. Now, what else did he say? Also, the Lex Man said that in his comment, all I ever hear you say about WWE is that their characters are boring, this and that. No, I'm not saying that the characters are boring. I'm saying the youth movement, the young guys are boring. A lot of them. The older guys are very interesting. The guys that have been there for a while. Randy Orton is very interesting. Cena is very interesting. Triple H, Undertaker, Rey Mysterio. Their older generation of guys are very interesting. And the reason I always talk about how this dull youth movement is that those dudes are winding down. Triple H is getting ready to call it a career and just take a job in the office. Shawn Michaels has retired. Ray's talking about hanging it up. Undertaker is on his last legs. Goldust is getting ready to retire. Regal's getting ready to retire. Well, those dudes are all interesting personalities. But when those dudes all start winding it up in the next 3 or 4 years, which like many people think they are, you're going to have this youth movement left. There's only so much more you can do with Cena and Orton. Luckily they built up the Miz great, and he's a very interesting character who I absolutely love. The Miz, I love watching him. and they can get a lot of good more years out of the Miz, and they got plenty of good more years out of Cena and Orton. I think Cena will be fine for another 5 years. Same with Orton, but when you look at some of these younger guys, these newer guys, they're fucking dull. And it's not, again, I don't blame the guys. It's because WWE isn't really giving them an opportunity to showcase anything. Now, the Lex Man and other people keep telling me that Daniel Bryan is very interesting. That they keep telling me that he's not a boring guy. Well, I just haven't seen it. WWE hasn't given him time to show any personality except for when he was in NXT. I liked him when he was on NXT in the first season because he did the stuff with The Miz and the stuff with Michael Cole, and he got to talk and he showed personality, and he was very interesting to watch back then. And when he had his feud with The Miz, he got to show personality again. So, I mean, it's clear that he can be interesting. But ever since he won the U.S. title from The Miz, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't feuded with it. He doesn't feud with anybody. He doesn't cut any promos. The guy clearly has talent. They showed that on NXT. They showed that he could do it during his time in The Miz. I'm saying, what happened after he beat The Miz for the U.S. title? Since then, he's been fucking dull. He had a belt that he never defended and nobody wanted. He never cut promos. The one time he said anything was, I wasn't laughing at you, Sheamus, and then loses the belt to Sheamus 2 weeks later. And again, I don't blame Daniel Bryan. My complaint isn't Daniel Bryan. My complaint isn't that the guys are boring. It's more that the way they're booked makes them boring. Why isn't WWE giving them any interesting storylines or feuds or personalities? A great example, fucking Dash and Cody Rhodes. I love that guy. He was just like the rest of these boring youth movement dudes until they did that stupid poll thing where the Divas voted him the most handsome superstar, and somebody in that company had the good sense to say, hey, most handsome superstar, let's go with this. I don't know whose idea was it to go with it and turn it into a gimmick, but I'm glad they did. They have saved this guy's career. Because whoever came up with the idea to say, hey, let's take this, he was voted most handsome by the Divas, and make that his gimmick and go with it. Because that person is the person who's responsible for Cody Rhodes no longer being just another of these boring youth movement guys. Again, I'm not blaming the guys themselves. They clearly have potential to be something interesting, but for whatever reason, WWE has not given them any opportunity to do something. Or, Dolph Ziggler, at least Dolph Ziggler has somewhat of a different look. And what did they do? Cut his hair short, dyed it black. Now he looks like Evan Bourne, who looks like The Miz, who looks like a younger Randy Orton, who looks like Daniel Bryan, who looks like Wade Barrett. They all look the same. When you take away the Nexus and Core guys out of the group, who in those groups are interesting? Wade Barrett, because he's the only one who's actually gotten any promo time and a chance to show a personality, and Justin Gabriel because he's got because his finisher's over, because people haven't seen a 450 in the WWE in years, so now that's over. So as long as he can do a 450, that'll get him over. But outside that move, what else does Justin Gabriel really have as far as a character or a style or a personality? Heath Slater looks like a jobber. Ezekiel Jackson has a lot of potential. I like that guy. I think he's a great example of somebody that's being held back. I think they let that guy go, just run with it. He could do some great stuff, but they have they for whatever reason, they're not getting time to do promos or show personality or do anything that makes them interesting, and I just don't know why. And what annoys me is that I know WWE can do this. When WWE actually will push a guy and give him a personality, they tend to do very well with it. They did, again, go back to Cody Rhodes. They've done very good at making him interesting. Somebody had the good sense to say, let's go with this most handsome guy voted by the Divas thing, make it a gimmick, and it made him interesting. Even though he still looks kind of bland like the other guys, his personality makes him stand out from the pack. And then going into that broken nose thing and him being able to, with Rey Mysterio and him morphing into this more dark version of I guess what I call it is, what other people called it, undashing Cody Rhodes, and doing this feud with Rey has made him his stock is so much higher than any of these guys. I'm saying, God, just give these dudes I don't get why WWE won't give these guys a chance to show some type of character, because they're all so boring without one. I mean, too many of them look alike. They all have that same, stupid smirk, short frat boy haircut. They don't get much time to talk. I mean, do something with them. Again, the last man is not that I think that the guy is boring. It's more of that he's been booked boring. I think they don't get enough chance to show personality. Morrison just has a couple of spotty X Division moves. I mean, and that could work with him. That helps him for a while. But again, he still shows no personality. I have no reason to really care about John Morrison. I said before the other video, what if John Morrison as a person? What is he about? What does he represent? What are his values? Give me something to work with. I praise, Dashing Cody Rhodes because he's actually interesting to watch, because somebody had the good sense to give him a personality that made him stand out from the rest of these boring youth movement guys. Daniel Bryan is boring because WWE makes him boring. When he did the NXT stuff and the feud with Miz, he was interesting. I actually liked watching him then. Since then, he's done jack, and him being a good wrestler means nothing if the company doesn't book him into something interesting. My complaint, again, let's be clear, my complaint isn't the guys, it's more how they're used. I think they could be entertaining if they're given the chance to be entertaining. But for whatever reason, WWE hasn't done that with them anymore. And I just wish they would, because I think they could do something really, really good. I mean, I talked about one of the things I like about TNA so much is that they have lots of storylines. But your story means nothing if they have boring characters. But when you look at the TNA roster, the vast majority of the people on that roster have a different personality. They have something about them that sets them apart from the other people on the roster. When you look at the roster, I understand how Abyss is different from AJ, how AJ is different from Brian Kendrick, how Brian Kendrick is different from Bully Ray, how Bully Ray is different from Chris Sabin, how Chris Sabin is different from Crimson, how Crimson is different from the Pope, how the Pope is different from Daniels, how Daniels is different from Doug Williams, how Doug Williams is different from Generation Me, how they're different from Hernandez, how he's different from James Storm, how he's different from Jeff Jarrett to Jesse Neal to Kazarian to Kurt Angle. They have unique personalities that separate them from the other people on the roster. But when I look at these youth movement guys in WWE, what about their persona, their gimmick, their personality sets them apart? So I've been talking for about 13 minutes. I'm going to cut this video here, and I got to get ready to go to work. But the Lex, man, really go look at the WWE roster page and look at some of these young youth movement guys. And, man, when I look at Alex Riley and Chris Masters and Kurt Hawkins and Daniel Bryan and David Hart Smith and David Otunga, Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre, Evan Bourne, I just see the same dude with the same look. Occasionally one has a different, Evan Bourne has a flashy finisher. Somebody creative, give these dudes personalities. That's all I gotta say. Alright, I gotta get ready to go to work because I don't want to be late. So, this is the Shadow Ranger. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.